Hello, everybody. Yeah, the lights are out here. So hopefully everybody can see me all right. Give me a second here. I just have to make sure that I sent these links. So tonight I just wanted to announce real quickly, I am about 80% sure that I'm going to be chatting with Jim Willie Saturday morning, the 10th of February, mid-morning. So let me just finish this here. This computer. Well, I'll give it a minute, see if anybody pops on. Yeah, I just noticed today that the Super Bowl is next week. I didn't even know who was playing. I was like, it's not Tom Brady, so because he's not playing anymore. But I don't really follow sports much anymore. But I read online that 50 million people, or 50 million televisions, I don't know, remember which, were watching those games. And I was like, that's incredible that we have 50 million people in the United States who are taking hours of their day out to watch football. You know, grown men and women. Yeah, and that's all right, I guess. It's better than reading a book or doing work. Yeah, I'm not getting a connection here. Well, I'm going to give it another couple seconds and then I will start my spiel once this other page comes up. Okay, so long story short, I'm working on getting a couple different people lined up. Jim Willie's going to be Saturday. And as I mentioned in the other video, it's not going to be public because I just can't risk getting it. YouTube will cut it off. So I'm going to have a private session. Now, for anybody who I know, like who I've communicated with, who I've traded messages with, send me an email. And if you want to participate in the call, what I envision is that people can pop in, ask a question for a couple of minutes, and then pop off, so that it will allow people to come in, ask questions. And it's not going to be live. It's going to be live talking to Jim, but it's not going to be live on the internet. It's going to be a private session. I don't know if I'm going to make it public online. A lot of these sessions I don't anymore. So if you want to participate in that, then I've said in the other emails, you got to send me a message, because the only way you're going to get into this is if I send you an invitation, and then you can use that invitation to join the call. It's not going to be on YouTube or Rumble to watch it. Okay. So that's it. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. I didn't know if I invited a couple people to come on. It was last minute, so I don't know if they're going to be able to come on or not. Hola, buenas tardes. Yeah, so I'm getting ready to, I'm starting to plan my next move. I'm going to be here for another month. And then I've got to figure out, normally what I do is I go back to Mexico City for the jacaranda. Jacaranda is a tree, has purple flowers. And Mexico City is in end of March and in really. Okay, so if anybody's out there and they have anything that they want to chat about, let me know. So I'm not sure, normally I do some homework on the weekends, like stay up, but this weekend, on Saturday, today I haven't done any work at all. Haven't done any work. I was going to start writing book number 2 again, and I keep procrastinating. And I was talking to a couple people about it, and I don't know why, but I just can't find the motivation to finish this book. I haven't gone in and read it in a while, months. I think I have around 10 chapters, but it's going to be one of these long, drawn-out stories. And I just can't sit down and put the time and effort into this thing. And I think I'm getting close, though, of going back there. The other thing that's very unusual, it's, how YouTube puts feeds, recommended feeds. I had, because I don't watch these type of videos, but I don't even remember the name of the guy's channel. He's an Air Force veteran, Air Force pilot. And it's like Pilot Debrief, I think's the name of it. And all of a sudden, all of his videos started popping into my feed. And what he does is he analyzes airplane crashes. So I watched a couple of his videos. Like if I see the same person popping up, then I usually will take a look. And he's got a pretty good channel, but I'm not a pilot, so I'm probably not going to continue watching his videos. But he does a very good job. Very good job. Very professional. He's a professional pilot for one of the major airlines and flew in the Air Force. And he was also saying that he's one of the few Air Force pilots who actually, they did a swap with the Marine Corps, and so he flew the F-14 Tomcat. And he was carrier rated, and he said he was one of the few Air Force pilots who's actually was rated for carriers, which was very interesting. So he flew that plane, and he also flew the F-15 Flying Eagle, which he obviously prefers because that's the plane of the Air Force. And it's a very good plane. Very, very old now. I think the technology is from the 80s, 70s maybe, 70s or 80s, and they're still flying that thing. So be interesting to see how that would hold up in combat against some of these newer designs. And then the other thing that was disturbing is I don't remember the name. There was a guy who had a reptile farm. His name was Brian, and he just died. So it was a video saying goodbye, Brian, and I ignored it, even though it was in my feed. And then every time I would call up YouTube, it would be right there. So I finally watched it, and I just assumed he was moving or changing jobs or something. But no, the guy got prostate cancer, and he was dead within a year, 9 months, I think. And then because I watched that video, now in my YouTube feed, I have all these dying people showing up in my algorithm. So I don't know how long it's going to take for that go, but God bless these people, but man, oh man. But it is a reminder that we're only here a temporary while. And it's also, it's interesting to see how people face death, because, we're all going to be facing it. And, I never really was subjected to it, a little bit as a child, but it was always distant people. But then when you lose parents, that hits home. That hits home. That was really, I was a small child when my grandparents died, so I really didn't know them. And then, you lose aunts and uncles, and it's terrible, but it never hits home quite like somebody, in your inner circle. And one of the women, I think she was a teacher from California, and it was the same disease, the prostate cancer, and she made it 2 years, and I think she, I don't know if it was the 2-year anniversary, but she, which I don't know if it's legal in California, because I think she was from California, but she drank a potion and basically put herself to sleep. And the video I saw was she was posting it like 3 hours before she killed herself. And it's pretty final. Well, on Earth anyways. But both of these people were convinced that they were going to better places. So I hope they both were saved. That's what I think we all hope. I don't know how many people have thought about it, but whether you're on this earth for 30, 50, 100 years, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot in time. And hopefully we're not just born, we live, we die, and that's it, dirt nap. Hopefully there's something more substantial. And no matter how much we might believe, there's no way to know. Nobody's come back and, well, they do have these videos. Dan sent me some of these testimonials of people who have come back from the dead. But is it real? Is it not real? I don't know. Because the brain is, I remember, oh boy, do I even want to tell this story? Well, let's just say I've heard that when somebody dies, their brain is still alive for 20, 30 minutes. So there are some who believe that if you're talking to them they can still hear you, if you believe that. So yeah, I'm not going to tell this story. So, well, have a happy Sunday, everybody. So, I didn't feel like sitting and editing a video, so I just wanted to pop on and say, I'm working on a couple other live streams. One on the markets with a professional trader. I don't know if he's going to want to come on. Also trying to get Greg with Silver Liberties. Greg, if you're listening, buddy, come on. Let's go. Let's get it on, man. Let's get it on. People want to know what your 2020 forecast is, and they also want to know, somebody emailed me and said, hey, did his forecast match for 2023? And I'm going to let you answer that. And then, so we'll get Jim Willie, and then there's the guy in China who I want to get on. I really want to. It's been so long since I've been in China. Let's see, it's been 4 years. Over 4 years now. This is 2024. Yeah, it's over 4. I'll tell you, time flies. I was in China at the end of 2019. And December of 2019, I think. And that's how quickly it goes. Yeah, that's when I climbed. Might have been 2018. I went up and I climbed the remote section of the Great Wall, slept up there overnight, which was cold, but it was a great experience. Didn't work out exactly as I had hoped, but it was still fantastic. Sleeping, this section of the wall I was on was, I want to say it was 1,000 or 1,200 years old. So, I mean, and it was a guards tower, so there were guards up there 800, 900 years ago, sleeping and manning the tower that I was sleeping in. That was pretty cool. And I had hoped, I had positioned it, I picked that tower because I had hoped that I would get a great sunrise and a great sunset. And it was cloudy on the night. And then in the morning, it was miserable. It was rain. And that's what I didn't even continue on. I've got a video on it, but it was, if I had made a mistake, it was, I probably would have died. I mean, you're talking some of these falls, you're talking several hundred feet down into rocks, which you're not going to survive that. And if you do survive, that section of the wall, nobody's going to find you down there. So it's pretty remote. So, yeah, China, it's, I spent quite a bit of time in China. And those people are quite resilient, quite tough. The older generations grew up at a time when they didn't have a lot of money and a lot of wealth. So those people, I'm sure, will be able to transition. In fact, a lot of them that I know, they still live like they're in squalor. They don't spend a lot of money on much. But I remember when properties really started escalating. And I remember there was this girl that I knew, and she was pooling her family's money so they could buy, her and her husband and their parents could live in this house. And this was in, where was she? I don't know if it was Shenzhen, Guangzhou, or Hangzhou. I just don't remember where this girl was because I'm not in touch with them anymore. But I don't even remember the price. I'm sure I have a video on it. But it was several $100,000 US equivalent, which is a lot of money because she was making probably 10 grand a year at that point. And, even if they pool their life savings. But, this is what happens is that property that was worth $200,000 or $300,000, it probably escalated to $500,000 Because I remember Ting Ting and I were going to buy a condo, an apartment on the Futian border in Shenzhen. And yeah, what I don't, it was, we were able to get them. I tried to have her negotiate because I tried not to be involved in the deal because I didn't want them to see, the white face, because then they'd try to charge more money probably. And I think she was able to get a price of roughly $100,000 plus or minus. I think it was 110 equivalent. And it was a typical Chinese apartment. It's just a concrete slab, and then you have to. This one was finished, but it would have needed some updates on it. But it was a very nice area in the Shuijiao section of Shenzhen. And this was about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more than 10. And I remember when I was back in Shenzhen in 18 or 19, I went over, they have these real estate offices, so they have the postings with all the pricing out on the windows pasted. And those apartments were now going for 500,000 US. So in 5 years, they'd gone up 5 times. And it's tulip mania, man. It's everywhere now. It's everywhere now. Where you see it in the stock markets, you see it in the crypto markets, you see it in our property markets, and it never lasts. Never lasts. It usually goes on longer than you think it will. And so that was 10 years ago, and it hasn't crashed yet, especially in Shenzhen. Shenzhen is probably one of the more expensive cities to buy property in. Shenzhen, Beijing, Shanghai are probably the 3 top most expensive cities. Those are what they call tier 1 cities. Guangzhou surprisingly wasn't as expensive, and I like Guangzhou a lot more than Shenzhen. I liked Shenzhen. When I first went to Shenzhen, it was 2007, and Shenzhen was a shadow of what it is today. And Shenzhen was only started back in 1980, 80 or 89. It was like a port with a couple hundred people, and that's where the Chinese government decided to build, their future technology city. And boy, has it grown. Boy, has it grown. So it's amazing now. I don't know how many millions of people are there, but yeah, I remember it because back old China, man, you'd have these buildings and these establishments that you'd have to go to a tier 2, tier 3 city to see buildings like that now. Because those tier 1 cities, and I remember Shenzhen was pretty rough and ready for a long time. You could do anything. But last time I was there, I remember they banned motorcycles and mopeds. And I remember I saw the police. They were rounding up all these motorcycles and mopeds, throwing them in the back of trailers. And these people were getting citations and having their bikes and mopeds taken from them. And yeah, that makes it. Because I remember I have a video of this. Ting Ting's aunt, she lived out in a part of Shenzhen called Dawei Village. And back then, there was no public. There were buses, but no metro, no subway. You'd have to take a bus, or, most people out there had some sort of car to make it worthwhile. And Dawei Village was this art place, so they had all this imitation art. Like if you were a restaurant or a hotel chain, you'd go to Dawei Village and say, hey, I need 1,000 of these Van Goghs and 1,000 of this. And then they'd recreate this and ship them over, and then you'd post them in all the different rooms or in your hotels or your restaurants or offices, and that's where they got a lot of this imitation art. And the art was excellent, beautiful stuff. You could bring a photo and say, "Hey, I want this recreated," and I did that with a couple things, and yeah, pretty cheap too. Pay somebody do a portrait for back then. I think it was like $30, maybe $30 framed. Forget about it. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'll ever get to. I was going to try to go back to China this past autumn, end of last year, but I didn't have a passport. I had not had a passport for a year. It had expired when I came to Mexico, and I don't need a passport in Mexico because my U.S. passport had expired, and because I have another passport, and I'm also a Mexican resident, so I don't need a passport here. So, all right, well, I am going to go take a shower. It's a little humid. Just finished my walk. So those are the announcements, and I encourage that this is going to be a heck of a show with Jim Willie. We're going to talk about some it's going to be some fireworks. Going to be very, very interesting show. We're going to talk about things that I'm not sure anybody's really talking about, and I think 2024 is going to be a very, very interesting year. And I won't say it's going to lead to anything drastic because, I reference this all the time, but Peak Prosperity, Chapter 2 on compounding, type that into your search engine, Peak Prosperity, Chapter 2 compounding, and watch that video. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen could be tomorrow for all we know. Because I think what's going to happen is we're going to go into the weekend. It's going to be Friday, and markets will close. People will do their weekend things. They'll have a good time, watch their football, go out to dinner with whoever. And then Monday, we'll wake up and the world will change forever. Speaking of which, I just popped into what was the day of the week for September 11th. I don't think that was a Monday, was it? It was a Tuesday. No. Yeah. This is the problem with, I'm in Mexico, and so they do the dates backwards. No, that's September 11th. It was a Tuesday. I'll never forget September 11th. I had AOL dial-up. I'll never forget. I was at my desk, and I was dialing it up, and AOL came up. You have mail. And, the front news story, the images online back then were terrible. So it just showed this black squiggly coming out of the side of 9/11 or the Twin Towers, and it was smoke. And because I remember my foreman came running in, and, on the production floor, they'd have a radio going. And I guess there was an announcement that a plane had hit the tower, one of the towers. And he came in, he goes, "Oh, holy cow, you're not going to believe it." And I was like, wow. And I immediately flashed back to, pictures I'd seen of when a plane hit the Empire State Building during World War II, one of the B-29 bombers. And I just assumed it was a small plane. And then a few minutes later, I heard him say, "Holy bleep." He goes, "Oh my God, they just hit the other tower." And that's when I logged on and saw the picture. Well, I'll never forget it because my parents were visiting me, and they came into the shop with me, and they were sitting right next to me. And we had been chatting. And this was in the morning, about 8:30 in the morning, I think. And yeah, I remember. You want to talk about slowdown? The economy came to a grinding halt, and I don't think they had stimulus back then like they did in COVID. But I remember, I remember the TV only talked about, all they did was talk about 9/11 day after day after day. But I do remember they named Osama bin Laden the same day, which I thought was strange. And yeah, boy, did that change our country for the worse. That's when the powers that be perfected their technique of problem, reaction, solution. That's when they knew they had us. So, all right. Hey, Tom, how you doing, buddy? You have anything you want to add about anything in particular? Yeah, the passport on the rubble. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what are the chances? I mean, is it possible if the guy was in the cockpit? I mean, if that plane was going 400, 500 miles an hour, say 400 miles an hour, when it impacted the side of the tower, if we're saying it was a plane, wouldn't you think, number one, that thing would disintegrate? Number two, you saw the fireball that came as a result. So would a passport survive that? Would the forward momentum blow that through the side of the building before fire could destroy it? I don't know. Doubtful. So, but one thing that I've learned over the years, Tom, is anything's possible now. Because I was just talking to Dan tonight, and I had watched a video we did. Yeah. You know, Tom, I never used to before 9/11. Did I ever? No, I think I was just too busy. I mean, my life, I mean, I don't know about you, but I was always so busy running to stand still. I mean, whether it was work or school or training, I was always doing something. So I never really had time. And the internet also back then really wasn't developed like it is today. So if you were into conspiracy theories, you'd actually have to go out and get a book from the library or a store, or listen to a radio program, or catch some sort of TV show. But I'm not sure they had websites back then that really talked about this stuff. Like Bill Cooper. I didn't know who Bill Cooper was back in 2001. I didn't find out about him until, I want to say 2007. When I started to come awake is, I think, the GFC. when I saw the absurdity going on then, and that's when I really started to notice. In 2001, you tried to reenlist? You sound like Dan. Yeah. They told Dan he was too old. Yeah. Yeah. They'd take him today probably, but they wouldn't take him back then. Yeah. Be like like in Germany at the end of World War II. Who was fighting at the end of the war in Germany? It was young boys and old men. Those are the only ones left. Yeah, medical discharge. Yeah. I actually just met a woman down here who was in the Marine Corps for 20 something years, and she ended up she was on guard duty and she got run over by a Humvee. That ended her career. Sort of. They had her in a medical platoon for 7 years. I've never heard of that, where they keep somebody in a medical platoon for 7 years. That's like a prison. That's like being in prison when you're in a medical platoon. That's like being in jail. Yeah. They tell you where to go, what to do, how to go, when to line up. I mean, forget about it. I maybe I misunderstood her, but I'm pretty sure that's what she was telling me. We'll see. I don't know if I told you, Tom. I know I told Brian. I've got I developed a new trading system. I've been working on it for like 6 months, and now I'm in the testing phase. And I should knock on wood. I think I'm 7 for 7 or 8 for 8 since I started live trading this. Hospital transportation for 6 months. Were you in New Hampshire for that? I know you told me. I just don't remember. I don't remember how you ended up in New Hampshire. I barely remember my own life story. Corpus Christi. Oh, boy. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wow. Well, yeah, interesting. Texas. Only 2 things from Texas, boy. Houston Airport, huh? Like doing the O.J. Simpson run for Hertz, and you ran her over, knocked her over, and it was love at first sight. Remember those O.J. Simpson commercials? People probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah, I think O.J.'s still alive. Yeah, I don't think he's dead. Wow. Yeah. Hey, man. I've often said it's amazing. This is how crazy life is. If you look on your life and you think of some of the biggest moments in your life that you actually had control of, obviously we don't control our births, right? That's probably one of the biggest moments that we don't control. But usually people who end up with other people, it's these random stories, man. It's these random stories. Just it's really, how often is life being in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time? Man, oh man. And I think you read my book, Tom, and I talk about a couple of those in the book where, man, oh man, Boy, was I in the right place at the. Well, yeah, I talk about that with Dan on a lot of videos. I mean, this is the advantage. Hey, we just had February 2nd, Groundhog Day. And if you've ever seen that movie, Groundhog Day, with Bill Murray, what a great movie. How many times did he have to do things over and over again before he got it just right? And this is why teams practice, man. It takes a while to get something right. I think about, once in a while, I'll think about how, wow, just same thing. Wow, boy, did I have no idea usually what it was is I was usually so preoccupied with whatever I was doing that, it's a dangerous thing, and it's something I've learned over the last 20 years. Well, since my mother died, so almost 20 years. Is I used to be living in a moment, but thinking about the next moment. You know what I mean? Instead of being in the moment and enjoying the moment and maximizing it and really making it count. And I think of sometimes the times with like Ting Ting in China. I don't think of them much, but I mean, when I went through the whole grieving process of that relationship ending, is I thought about it, and I was like, wow, man, I should have done this instead of that. But this is, like you said, this is life, man. This is life. This is how we learn. And yeah, c'est la vie. That's we're not perfect people. As much as we may or may not want to be. Some people want to be. Some people don't give a crap. Yeah. Well, Tom, you're a good guy. I mean, I've met you a couple times, and I mean, you were willing to drive down to Connecticut to see Brian that time. I mean, you're willing to put out the effort there. So that says a lot about you as a person. So I can appreciate that aspect, and I appreciate it. Getting to chat with you over the years. So, but well, I'm sure I'll be trading messages with you and Brian over the next few days. We'll see. This week, it was a good meetup. Do you stay in touch with the blind guy? I don't remember his name. He's like a blind radio host, isn't he, or something like that? Seemed like a nice enough guy, but I didn't really get to talk to him that much. Yeah. And obviously, Brian's a great guy. Great guy. He's almost too nice sometimes. Oh, you did? Yeah. Was he from Connecticut? He must have been from Connecticut. Am I in the market? I'm in the market, and Brian, it's I was talking about this with somebody tonight. Is if something goes down, like if something goes down, now I now think worst case scenario, because speaking of it, Celsius, that crypto company run by the Ukrainian guy who's a criminal, he stole like $1 billion. Imagine that. He stole $1 billion. They just came through bankruptcy. And I'll just make a short statement on that. I learned a very valuable lesson, because I was paying a guy who supposedly was this crypto expert. And I was paying him for his consultation recommendations. And we had a conversation. And he told me that in his professional opinion, that Celsius was not going to go the way it did. And I'm like, my instincts were saying, I don't know. So what I did was that's the other thing is all these red flags I should not have ignored. But you, to get your money out of Celsius back then, you had to set up a link, and the link had to be confirmed, and it took either 24 or 48 hours or 72 hours to like confirm the link with your bank. So those people who waited at the last minute to get their money out, you couldn't get your money out because you had to wait that 3-day link to confirm with your bank. So I went through and I did that whole process, and I even had it set up in the system where all I had to do is go in and go beep, and it would go, and it would go right away. I went through that. I had it set up. And this is what the sons of bitches did. I'll never forget it. The guy contacted me. It was either a Saturday or Sunday night. Saturday or Sunday night. So I wasn't in front of my screen. I like during the week, I'm ready to go. And by the time I went in there to transfer my money, it was locked down. You had, when the shit started hitting the fan, you had minutes. So, yeah, hey, such is life. Sometimes when you play, you lose. And that's why you only use money that if you lose it, doesn't kill you. It hurts. Nobody likes lose. Like, that's why I don't go into casinos and gamble. Because, man, I lose $40 at a casino. I'm mad. Yeah, you're lucky. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is, and I wrote about this in my book, is when your spidey sense, and these are the thing, when your spidey sense is telling you, do this, the only time that I've regretted not listening to my spidey sense is when I've sat there and said, well, I really don't want to follow this instruction. And usually by the time if you wait too long, usually you end up hurt. So, but why was I telling that story? The markets. So I said it earlier. There's a good chance that we may wake up on a Monday morning and banks aren't open. Or Fidelity, Schwab, Robinhood, TD Trade, whoever they're not letting you move money. And they can say they're insured. They say, but really? I mean, if you look into this FDIC insurance and the other types of insurance for brokerages, I don't trust any of them now. And so I'm really, and I'm not in the United States, which makes it that much harder to start moving money around, because when you go to a foreign country, now I won't go down this, but setting up bank accounts here, I can do it because I have residency, but if you're not a resident and you're in a foreign country, as a person in the United States, these banks don't want to touch you with a 10-foot pole. And then, can you trust the Mexican banks? I don't know. I don't. I don't even trust the American banks. Your spidey sense told you to sell. Well, then you have your answer, my friend. That means you sell, because if you know if you don't do what your spidey sense is telling you to do, you end up regretting it, and you'll be sitting there in the middle of the night worrying about it. It's one thing to gamble a few $100s, a few $1,000s, but a significant portion of your portfolio. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know it sounds insane. I mean, it sounds insane to think that you could just lock down. But here's the problem: is the people in power and the people who are in the media. If you do, I mean, I'm just going to be very blunt here. If you think that you can trust the government and the media today, then you are so freaking asleep. I mean, you're beyond salvation. I mean, you better hope that you get lucky, because I think our government has proven that they're a bunch of liars, and the media is bought and paid for, and our banksters are criminals. As George Carlin says, it's one big club, and you and I aren't in it. So it's I think we're at the point now where anything could happen, and I don't think it would be shocking. I mean, I don't know. Throw something crazy at me. Well, I mean, I mean, it could be banks shutting down. It could be, bank holidays, the market shut down, another false flag, another 9/11, nuclear attack on the United States, power grid goes down, EMP attack, World War III starts, major invasion into the United States. Joe Biden dies, Kamala Harris becomes president. Or Joe and Kamala both die, and we have that idiot speaker become president, who his first action in office, take care of Israel. I mean, they should have been like, okay, veto, you're out. We're pulling the plug. We made a mistake. Yeah, actually, I put on Brian. I was just saying to Tom, I'm trying out this new system. I mean, I don't want it to sound like I've created something new and fabulous that hasn't been done by professionals. I mean, anything that you could do in the markets, somebody's already doing it. But for me, it's something new and unique and different. And there's obviously no way to do something with no risk. Although the time when I would have taken the no risk, the reason I put my money into Celsius is because I was transitioning. I was starting to set up my plan to go to Mexico, and I wanted 5% on my money. And the banks were paying what, 0.01%? And I'm like, they'll buy me a cup of coffee, man. So I took on the added risk. And this is what happens. That's the other thing I was talking to Dan about last week. I can specifically I take ownership for my mistakes, but I can honestly say that the times that I've lost money in the market, it's because of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has manipulated the markets in such a way. Well, the first time was end of 2019. And back then, the VIX, the volatility, was at very, very low numbers. But you could see, it's kind of like today, how the market was just floating up and the volatility was being suppressed. And the volatility trade is, no doubt in my mind, it's manipulated. So that's why I usually don't play it anymore unless I'm playing a quick bounce. But back then, I only really started trading the end August of 2019. So I've had to learn everything, and a lot of times you have to learn painfully in a way, you know, oh wow, that hurt, that cost me money, I won't do that, or why did that happen? And I'll never forget it. Me and Dan, we were so stupid, ignorant, and I was buying. I'm not even sure which. I think some of those indexes don't exist anymore. We were buying TVIX, which I don't think exists anymore, and I think we were buying UVXY or UVIX, and it was like 2-3 times ETF on volatility. And this is bad. And so, yeah, I had only traded like in my retirement. I'd be in a fund and I would never look at it. I just put money in and never look at it. And I decided to start trying to trade in the end of 2019, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I did not know about contango. So I saw these prices on volatility, and I'm looking at the chart, and I'm like, oh my God, look at how low it is when this bounces. Because volatility's coming back in the near term. So when it does, it will double, and I'll double my money. We'll make a shitload of money. And me and Dan were like buying hand over fist. And then I remember I found this article on contango, and I read it. And all of a sudden I felt my heart just drop into my stomach. And I was like, oh my God. And contango is, when it has, it's all derivatives. And when they roll over these contracts every month, the price has a natural bend down. So you lose X% a month when the contracts roll over. And that's why most people who trade volatility short it. They short it because it loses 2 to 5% a month. Trish, how you doing? It's I've been waiting for you to call me so you can come on and talk to me about your chickens or whatever else you want to talk about, you and Brian. So anyway, so I found out about contango, and I called up Dan. I'm like, Dan, listen, man, we're in trouble. And so I really wasn't on Twitter back then, but there was this guy who was a volatility expert. So I direct messaged him. And I said, hey, I'm in this position and I'm in pretty heavy because I didn't understand. And he wrote back to me and he said, listen, he goes, because what happens is, this is the problem. If volatility loses X% a month, for it to get back to where it was, it's got to go up like double, right, to get back to where it was. And for that to happen, it's a very rare event. So he gave me his 2 cents, talked to Dan, and let it go another week. And, you're just watching your account just go like this. And I was like, I know volatility is going to pop. I knew volatility was going to pop. I just didn't know how long I was going to have to wait. So if I have to wait a month, that's X amount of contango. If I have to wait 3-4 months, you're going to lose everything. You're going to lose it all because it will be beyond when you're trading options. That's how it is. And so, if Dan comes on, I'll let him tell you guys a story about that. I don't want to talk to his trades because he might not want me to, but very interesting story he has about cash in hand and opportunity cost. But I forget what I was saying now. Oh, so yeah, this is really this one really turns my stomach still now. I don't even remember how much money I had in this. I want to say probably $40,000 or $50,000. and so I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to lose that money. So I started scaling out. And it got to the end of 2019. It was the end of the year. And I remember I sold. And then when the new year hit, the market just kept going up. And then we know what happened in March, right? The COVID bullshit and the market crash. And the TVIX went up to 1,000. I was buying the TVIX at 30. And I think I want to say I had like 500 shares of the TVIX at like 30 or something like that. And if I had held that, and so, I made I made a bad decision being in it out of ignorance. And then I made a calculated decision. I gave it as much time as I felt comfortable giving it. And then I scaled out of it. And if it wasn't for the COVID thing, then I would have lost everything if I had stayed in it. But it's just, this is what I was saying, is life is often being at the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time. And if fate had just rewarded me in serendipity, just had moved it 2 months, then I would have made $500,000, right? $1,000. Say I sold at 500 on average. 500 times 5, $250,000 on that one part of the trade I had on. That's a good trade. And boy, I had to learn. And then the other thing that I had to learn the hard way is the markets. Like you can develop a very good trading strategy for the market, and then the market changes and money rotates, and now the strategy that you were using is no longer as effective. Like one of the things that I was doing, made a lot of money in selling puts because the volatility back then was higher. So you were getting a lot of money, and you pick the correct strike, you can make a lot of money. I remember some of these trades, I was making 5-10% on my money in a week. That was unusual. Usually it's like, but 5-10%, definitely 5% a month on some of these tickers. So think about that. You're betting 10 grand. You're walking out, with $500 a month on 10 grand. That's pretty good ROI. And then back then, if you were exercised, because the premiums were so high, you could turn around and sell a covered call on it. And that's what's called like the wheel, where you're just rotating shares. So in essence, you're making X% on one side and X% on the other side. And as long as there's an up and down movement, you make a lot of money. But you really have to keep your finger on the pulse. So is there anything, instead of me rambling on, is there anything anybody wants to talk about? Any comments? Anybody have any strong thoughts about anything? Hey, I did see a post online today. I think it was CNBC or MSNBC. One of these liberal channels actually posted a story that Trump was ahead of Biden in their latest poll. And I was like, wow, if they're saying Trump's in the lead, that's amazing. Because for the last 3 years, hey, big fella, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, I'm okay. I had this really bad rash. I've had I talked about this, hey, if I'm dying, what can you do about it? But because I had these strange videos coming into my feed about people dying, And then the last year, I've had 3 health issues. I had COVID, which was, oh my God, that put me down for a month because I didn't have my ivermectin, and I have it now. Um, and then what else? Oh, I had that bug bite that turned into a hole in my back. Would not heal. Finally got that healed. Now it looks like a bullet wound. And then I've had this rash on but the rash is finally starting on the second type of medication now. Unbelievable. Who will Trump? You know, the one thing that I've learned about Trump, he really picks shit people. You know that? He doesn't. The people he puts around him are garbage. Garbage. Give me one person he's picked for anything that's worth anything. You can go from his Supreme Court nominees to his ambassadors to his VP. Picks crap. Because I think Trump, he's an egomaniac, man. And I've done enough videos about him, so I don't need to repeat what I say here. But I think he thinks he doesn't need anybody, or I think he wants people that he doesn't think are on his level or that can challenge him. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, big fella. Like, I was kind of excited. I talked to Gonzalo Lira about this, and I talked to Dan about this online before RFK came out. I was talking about RFK because Gerald Celente was talking about RFK, and mosquitoes are terrible, and I was excited to see what his platform was, and here's the problem is I think if we're waiting for a candidate who has everything that we like, we're just not going to vote because they all are terrible in some way. Like RFK, his position on Israel, it's like he's off the reservation. You know, this whole thing with the Epstein Island and Israel being in charge of that operation, I think where there's smoke, there's fire, man. That's the only thing that explains the absurdity that these politicians are behaving. It's just not normal. I mean, I'd like to see that kind of zeal for the United States, for the people of the United States, instead of the people of Ukraine and Israel. Hey, sorry guys, I could give a shit about Israel or Ukraine. I don't give a fuck. Okay? If those countries fell off the face of the earth tomorrow, hey, I'm not wishing for that. But if it happened, hey, I'm sorry for the people there, but it's not my problem. It's not my concern. Trish, how do I feel? I feel tired a lot. And that's a whole nother story I won't get into. But, yeah. And as far as Trump's VP, I hope he doesn't pick Tulsi Gabbard. I don't dislike her, but there's something about her that I have not done my due diligence on her, but there's something about I like her in some ways, but as somebody who I want to be president, no way. Put her in the cabinet, fine, but I don't want her as VP. I mean, there's a reason why they made Kamala VP, right? Kamala couldn't even get 1% of the Democrats' vote in the primary. She dropped out. Then the Democrats put her with their high-power team to polish her up and put her on the ticket as VP. There's a reason why she's the VP, because the powers that be don't plan on Joe Biden. I said it before, I don't think Joe Biden's going to be the next. I'll be shocked if he's there on Inauguration Day. I've been saying, obviously, it's probably going to be Kamala at this point. How can you remove her? But I was saying several years ago, I thought I've been thinking it's going to be Michael Robinson. Does anybody know who I mean? Who's Michael Robinson, guys? Come on. Who? Who? Anybody? Well, that's who I think is going to be the next Democrat nominee for president. So if you're telling me if I have to vote for Michael Robinson is Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama's maiden name is Robinson. Birth name was Michael. Yeah. Yeah, there are pictures of Big Mike. And Obama, you can find it online where Obama's, yeah, it is funny, but Obama would be like, me and Michael. Yeah. So we'll have our first black transvestite president if Michael Michelle makes it into the presidency. Yep. And man, that's the way our country is. I mean, look at the people who are voting today. I said it in a video, I mean, if they put Biden up and people are voting for Biden, you got your head up your ass, man. Yeah, if they put him up, you should veto that party. You go with if you don't want to vote for Trump, vote for RFK, man. So at least if they put Kamala up or Michelle Obama up or even Gavin Newsom, then I don't like any of those people, but it's not Joe Biden, who clearly he should be in a nursing home. He should be in a nursing home. God has been known to give people a bad king. Well, yeah, I've had that debate with Dan for years. What about the United States is exceptional, guys? Really, what? Just because we say we are? I mean, if you look at think about it. None of us are doing anything to stop our governments from doing these evil deeds. So that makes us complicit. I mean, we're complicit in the crime. I mean, think about it. If you're in these countries who don't have a formal military and you want to strike the United States, you'll take down a plane. You'll cross the border and you'll take down the grid, or you'll take out a hospital or a shopping mall with a car bomb, because that's the only way you can fight back. And it's terrible because it's unfortunate that they don't have enough power that they can attack the military or go attack our politicians, man. And I remember 9/11. I remember because I was asleep. I didn't understand any of this back at 9/11. And I remember that plane that crashed in Pennsylvania. They believe it was either heading for the White House or the Capitol building. And I remember thinking back then, wow, that would have been such a loss, losing the Capitol building with all that history. And, I don't feel that way now. The people we have in the Capitol building, 9 out of 10 of them are criminals. Truly. Because they actually could affect change. And instead, they're all bought and paid for. It's kind of like, I don't remember which comedian it was, but the comedian said they should have, like in Formula NASCAR racing, where all the sponsors are on their jackets or on their cars. Our politicians should have all these people who own a pound of their flesh and put it right out there for everybody to know. Yep, Pfizer. Yep, Moderna. Yep, Raytheon. Yep, this guy. Let it all out. So here, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at the comments. So did you guys say you wanted to talk about anything? As far as VP, who I think Trump will pick, assuming Trump is going to be the nominee, who he should pick? I mean, if Trump had any humility, he'd pick Ramaswamy, right? Or whatever his name is. I mean, who the hell else is there? Yeah. I mean, Trump only has one more term in him if he's elected. So set up. It's not going to be the guy from Florida there. It would have been just if DeSantis had not run, that's who your VP would be. If DeSantis had not challenged Trump, it would be him, in my opinion. But I'd say that's as close to zero. It should be that Ramaswamy guy. At least he sounds more reasonable in most things. He still sounds like a kook on certain, like when you talk about Israel, he still sounds like a neocon on those things. So, Government Sununu, yeah, he's not going to be governor much longer, I don't think, right? He's gone at the end of the year. Yeah, he's a Nikki Haley fan. So you have to wonder, well, his father, I mean, Sununu, come on, I mean, what else do you need to know? You know, it's funny, Tom, on WMUR, I listened to the senator there from New Hampshire, well, they're both women, but the one who used to be Hassan, Maggie Hassan. And she actually sounded, for the first 5 minutes, she actually sounded semi-normal, where she was talking about how she's talking about how she's concerned as a New Hampshire senator that once they start locking down the border on Mexico, that these people will go in through Canada and come down from the northern states. So she wants to get the border locked down up there while they still can. And normally these people are like lefty loonies where they don't make any sense at all. But she usually sounds like a nutbag. But I was surprised, very surprised. It must be an election year for her. It's the only thing I'm thinking. But I know, yeah. Well, you know, think about it. All the Congress people, senators and Congress people, were women from New Hampshire until I forget her name, but she resigned, and then that guy out of Manchester who owns that restaurant, he took over for her, and he's a moron. I've talked to him. He is truly a moron. He had been trying to get into politics for years, and he finally was able to get in through the back door. And that's the thing. Once you're in, then you have an advantage. So, yeah, big fellow, you know, humanity is not going to rise up. We already know what's going to happen, or I think what's going to happen is I personally cannot vote for Trump, and I've explained why before. Trump was in, people don't remember, Trump was in power when COVID arrived, and he's the one who brought in Fauci, and he brought in the jab, and he had Operation Warp Speed, and he has never apologized. He has never backtracked. Trump is the type of guy where he will say he's right, even when he's wrong. And okay, that's who he is. I don't think that makes a very good president. I think we need some humility, and we need people. You know, the other thing that really, the thing with Gonzalo Lira drives home, none of these people care about American citizens. None of them. How many people stood up for Gonzalo Lira or Edward Snowden or Bradley Manning? or any of these other people. Obviously not for Gonzalo Lira. I wrote to, I'd have to go in. I wrote to dozens of people in the U.S. government, congressmen, senators. I had been peppering Ambassador Bridget Brink in Ukraine every day about Gonzalo Lira. I did not get a single, not one reply. Not one reply. Not, hey, we received, no, time out. I did get one reply. Rand Paul, his office wrote back to me, and this is what they said, if I remember correctly. Hey, thanks for your email, but you're not a Kentucky resident, so we can't help you. Contact your local senator and congressman. But they put me on their mailing list, so I get all his emails now. So thanks a lot, Rand. Appreciate it. At least you replied to me, your office, even if it was to say, hey, pound sand. Yeah. Who's Chuck Norris? Is that Chuck Norris? I know. Yeah, so Vivek should be Trump's choice. But why did he go with Mike Pence? Remember when everybody was speculating? I just swallowed a mosquito. Oh, I have bug spray on too, and I'm covered. I'll never forget when they announced Mike Pence, and I was like, to Dan, I'm like, who the F is that? Who the hell is this guy? Mike Pence? You want to talk about milquetoast? I mean, what did he bring to the ticket? And he was about as much of a zero as a zero could be. He did nothing. He didn't even support his president. At least as a VP, I mean, support the guy who put you on the ticket. Yeah, even, if you don't support, here's the thing. If somebody asks me to be their VP and I don't like the guy, I don't want to support the guy, I don't agree with him, he asked me to do something I don't agree with, I think it's illegal, I resign. No, I'm not going to do that. Okay, then resign. Okay, here's my resignation. Bye. I mean, where's the integrity these days? And it's the same thing with Gonzalo Lira in the Ukraine. Hey, if Ukraine didn't like what Gonzalo Lira was saying, you say, hey, your passport's revoked. Your visa's revoked. Get out. Not, we're going to murder you now. And then the U.S. government says, and, here's the thing. After Gonzalo was murdered in their prison, somebody wrote online, and I mean, I'd never heard of these guys. There were two reporters who were covering 1973, the going-ons when Pinochet took over the coup in Chile, and they're Americans, they're reporters, and they were executed in this football stadium, and the State Department said, no problem. That's documented. State Department were in contact with the Chileans. Chileans had them, said they were going to kill them. The State Department's like, yeah, go ahead. So we have a history of this. And then obviously there have been so many people killed by our government. Even people right out in the open, both the Kennedys, MLK, definitely killed by the U.S. government, and probably Malcolm X, and some of these reporters. That guy, remember that guy? Was it Hastings? The guy who was driving that car, and they think somebody took control of the car and drove him into a tree. And there's a video of it exploding when it hits the tree. That was, and then Seth Rich, right? Seth Rich murdered Julian Assange, right? And they do this like they did Gonzalo, and Gonzalo Lira knew this too. We talked about it. He even said they used Assange as a, hey, you going to do this? We're going to make an example out of you. This is what's going to happen to you. That's what they did to Gonzalo. Yeah. They'll go around now and say, hey, you see what happened to Gonzalo? That's what's going to happen to you if you keep it up, pal. It's probably what they say to new presidents. They pull out the JFK tape and say, this is what's going to happen to you. Yeah. Trump is the Antichrist? I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch the video we did on Book of Revelation about the Antichrist. I do remember Book of Revelation. I think it says a 300 million man army is going to come down from the north into Israel. And that is the start of World War III, or the end of the world. That's the start of when the tribulations start happening, trials, the seals, and where are you going to get 300 million men? It's only a couple countries. Well, you could probably have all the Muslims. It's probably a couple billion Muslims, so you might get 300 million out of that. The Russians, the Turks, the Chinese. Turkey's to the north of Israel. I don't know. This stuff in Israel, man. This could easily, because it's we're not talking about rational thought here. We're talking about generational hatred, and because what we're seeing going on with Israel killing all these people, I mean that's been going on for a long time. So you have people who are adults now who were children back then when they saw their parents and uncles and aunts and friends getting murdered. So, yeah, they're willing to die for their cause. Yeah, Tom, Temple needs to be. It's all vague to me at this point. But well, hey, unless there's something somebody wants to talk about, I'm getting eaten alive here, so I can go put on some more bug spray or call it a night here. So, did I miss anybody's comments? But I think we're going into February. I think I've been saying for a couple weeks now. To me, the markets feel a lot like the beginning of 2020 to me. And I think that there is a real liquidity crisis going on behind the scenes. A lot of these banks have a lot of this bad debt that's worth pennies on the dollar, and the Fed took this debt, put it on their books last March, and they've said the banks have got to take it back onto their books in March. And so if these banks all of a sudden have to rebalance their balance sheets and liquidity based on their assets, I don't know, man. This is probably why the politicians, remember fractional reserve currencies, fractional reserve banking, it used to be 10%. Well, Congress changed to 0%. Banks don't have to have any reserves to back up what they loan out. So they could have, these commercial buildings, you see what's going on. These buildings that used to be $100 million are being sold for like $30 million. Somebody has to take an L. So if a lot of these owners like they did with the homes back in the Great Crisis. Some of these owners of these buildings are saying, "Hey, bank, hey, the guy who has the loan here, it's yours. I can't refinance it. I can't pay the refinanced rate. You can have the property." Now you have these banks going to be trying to sell this property at 50 cents on the dollar, 30 cents on the dollar, and that starts a trickle. And nobody thinks residential real estate's at risk. I think it's at risk because when you have all these layoffs, I don't know, how many people out there can afford to keep paying their mortgage when they don't have income coming in? What's Jingle Mail? Yeah. But banks never fail. Yeah, JP Morgan will own it all. I talked about JP Morgan just had, I forget the numbers now, like all-time record profits, hit it out of the park. And they're forecasting double the profits for 2024. Because what they do is they're an arm of the government, and the government gives them things at 20 cents on the dollar. So they're the ones who will pick it all up. I also read that, I forget the stat now, but BlackRock and other institutions are like the number one holder of residential property. I also heard that multi-unit buildings are crashing, and people cannot refinance them. They're losing them. And that's going through a crisis like commercial real estate right now as well. So what's going to happen is, this is why I'm very worried. If you're going to have positions, I would not have full positions, because like silver, gold, stocks, like March 2020, look at what happened in March 2020. These things dropped 50% in like a couple days. And I think we're going to see that again. And this is going to be the scary thing, because if you read about like the stories of 1929, I think the guy's name who was the head of General Motors back during that time frame, he lost everything because he was a multimillionaire back then, and back then a multimillionaire was a very rich person, and he stepped in and he was buying the dips, and the dips became a bigger dip and kept going, and he kept buying, and he lost everything, if I remember correctly. And that happened to a lot of people. A lot of people lost everything. And think about it. We have people chomping at the... I see these pros, quote unquote pros, who have blogs, and they're like, oh man, I can't wait for it to drop 20%. I'm going all in on NVIDIA or SOX or whatever ticker they're talking about. They're like, oh, I really want it to drop, and I'm going in. So what's going to happen is these things are going to plummet, and we're going to see, call it dead cat bounce, whatever. So we're going to see it plummet. We're going to see some buying, and we're going to see it roll over, and everybody's going to be like, oh shit. And does the U.S. government and the Fed, do they have enough liquidity to save everybody, or just their buddies? And it's a Ponzi scheme. That's why they came out with the money in 2022, 2021, whatever it was, because nobody was spending. And if they did not keep the Ponzi, that's a Ponzi, man. If the Ponzi doesn't continually have the money coming in, it explodes, blows up, falls apart. The game is over. Musical chairs. Oh no, yeah, Zodi. I find the crypto people and the precious metal people, I don't want to say the word I'm thinking because women get upset at me, but they are the biggest bunch of wimps and hypocrites. Like when Bitcoin rolls over, it's going to roll over. When it rolls over and it drops below 32,000, get out of the way. This is probably when it will go back down to 12 grand or something really ridiculous, 8 grand, 15, whatever number it hits. Because you're right. That's what happens is all these people like, oh, I can't wait. And then they don't step in. And that's what's going to happen with silver and gold. I would be very, very, I do have a few positions because this is the thing with the geopolitical stuff going on. Like one of the positions I'm in is SSRM mining, and they're profitable. They have a dividend, and their shares are almost back to the COVID lows. COVID low, I think they got down to $9. Was it $9? $8 or $9? I'd have to call it up, and it's almost there. It's almost there. So the way I look at it is, they go out of business, I'm screwed. But I think that we are going to get a 2020 crash, but I think silver and gold will bounce. Maybe not the same day. Might be a day, a week later, but I would be comfortable buying silver and gold. Like if silver goes back to $19, I think you have to buy that dip. Not all in, but you have to buy, break it up into quarters or thirds, whatever your system is. But break it, buy segments. Same thing with gold. And because it is kind of a joke. I mean, Bitcoin will move $5,000 in a day. And people are like, gold can't go to 5,000. Really? Why not? Well, that will destroy the system. But Bitcoin won't. Moves 5,000. I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah, gold could easily take off when, think about it. I mean, where are you going to put your cash? I mean, think about this. I mean, it's something I get emails and messages from people all the time now. And it's when I talk to Jim Willie on Saturday, I'm going to get his opinion on this because I can only give you my opinion, but you can't go all in on anything because if you're wrong, you don't want to lose everything. But where do you put your cash? Where do you park your cash? Obviously, where I would be parking it right now, a portion of it is the 3 or 6 month government bonds because they're paying 4 or 5%. Why put your money into the stock market? A little bit of money is okay, but why put a majority of your money? I mean, you're not going to keep it in a savings account in a bank earning 0.1%. And the U.S. government, unless it's a catastrophic, like World War III thing, you'll get your money back from those government bonds. And since it's only 3 or 6 months, yeah, you might lose some value from inflation because if inflation's going up 10% and you get a 5% rate, you're losing 5%, right? But it's quote unquote risk free. It's better than putting it in your mattress or putting it into Bitcoin or even putting it into gold and silver for liquidity. I mean, because those are not real liquid. There's too much risk. I mean, if you want liquidity, I think you've got to go either you hold it in your hand in physical cash, which is kind of crazy, or you got to go with those short-term government bonds because then you can roll it, continually roll it, or you can pull it after a certain amount of time. It's only 3 months. So even if the rates drop to zero, and it affects you're still going to get your 3%. The duration's going to be up in 3 months. I don't know. Does anybody else have a better idea? DJ, this is when I first found Jim Willie. It has to be, at least 10 years ago. And this is when I started listening to him. When he started talking about the Scheist dollar. And short summary of the Scheist dollar is basically he believed that the U.S. dollar would inflate until it, poof, just exploded. And then it would be replaced with what he called the shit dollar. Scheiss is shit in German. And that would be the replacement, and that would buy a certain amount of time. And that's when I really started getting into gold and silver as an alternative, and even thinking about these issues. It's got to be at least 10 years, maybe 12. I'll have to look. It's a long time ago. I think he's going to be right about that. Now, Jim and I don't agree on a lot of stuff, and I'm not going to, in this chat, I'm not going to let him go into the QAnon, go off on that tangent, and we're not even going to go into this Trump thing. Although I will say this, I don't listen to every Jim Willie interview, but I did hear him on somebody's channel. He actually is questioning Trump now. And when Jim and I would have some battles back and forth, he was like Trump's biggest supporter. And he was talking about the white hats and this, and I'm like, Jim, you're out to lunch, man. This is not real. And so I don't think he's on that train anymore. We'll find out. I'll talk. Maybe I'll ask him briefly, but I really don't want to waste my time talking about that. I really want to talk about what he sees going down in 2024. Like, is this going to be the year that things start unraveling? And we'll see what he has to say. It's like, you remember the guy from Silver? Oh man, I forget his name. He did the designs on the silver, and he would do these videos, and he would have a saying, listen to everybody, trust no one, something like that. I'd know his name if I heard it. He's like fallen off the face of the earth over the last few years. Silver Shielders. Chris Dawei, thank you. Yeah. He I listened to him a lot early on as well. He helped wake me up. There were several people, and it's funny. A lot of the people I listened to back then, a lot of them went off the reservation. There was one guy, Storm Clouds Gathering. Anybody remember him? Storm Clouds Gathering, great channel. And he picked up his family and moved to the Dominican Republic about 5-6 years ago. And he basically said, we're going to need this much time to get off grid. He's off grid completely. And he's up and running now. He's got a full farm, full compound. He's done a great job. There's a guy, see, you got to respect this. There's a guy who he looked at, analyzed the information, made his calculations, and then he took action. And how many people just never take action? And then when it finally hits, like, go into that Peak Prosperity video and watch that chapter 2 on compounding, and watch that, because that, I truly believe, is what's going to happen. It's going to be like it is now, where it's like drip, drip, drip. Oh, this shoe drop, and then Monday morning, one of these Monday mornings, it's going to be the safe just landed on our heads. And it's going to be too late to do anything. If it's truly the proverbial saying, it's better to be a year early than a day late. I think we are going to live that. We're going to be the lucky people. We're living in some very unusual times. Very unusual times. I think I would have rather lived the times where I was living in this rather than this. But we don't get to choose that. Yeah, uh, I, I haven't listened to Chris Dawei. Thank you for reminding me his name. My memory is of names and stuff. Um, he's fantastic, and I think what happened is I don't know this for sure. I think he went through a divorce, and something else happened to him, and I think he also was a combat veteran. So you know, so I think there were a lot of variables that hit him at once, and so I think mentally, I'm not sure he held it together, but I don't know. I haven't followed him. But the bottom line is, hey, thank you, Chris Dawei. You put out a lot of good information, and I think you helped a lot of people wake up, start the path anyways. There's so many people out there. I mean, my favorites, Gerald Celente. Gerald Celente's he's the best. And Greg USA Watchdog on Rumble. He's also has an extra. And Greg Manarino. Greg Manarino, I'll tell you, that guy is a pit bull, man. He's a pit bull. I'm sure he has a team of people helping him now, but boy, does that guy never stop. Never stop. He has helped a lot of people, Greg Manarino. There's another guy who he's over the years he's put out some emails and I'm like, what's he doing? I remember when he's sending out his trade recommendations and he's like betting these options and I'm like laughing with Dan. We did a video on it as a skit where he's like betting like $100,000 to make $100 and I'm like, Greg, what are you doing? Maybe not that extreme. Who's a Freemason? Well, big fella, I just said that. That's what Chris Dawei said. Listen to everybody. Trust none. But this is the thing. If we truly ground ourselves with the universe, however you need to do that, and we receive information, think about the time in your life where you knew the truth and you refused to acknowledge the truth and you ended up getting punched in the face because you refused to believe it. I've had that happen too many times to count. And that's why over the years, I've tried to refine my spidey sense to now where when I get this, now I know when I get this signal, I just follow it. And there have been a couple times where I'm like, oh, I really don't want to follow that. And I've regretted it each time. Yeah, well, here's the thing. And I don't know if it was somebody here I might have been talking to about this, so I just don't remember. But here's the question that I asked Jim in preparation. I sent him like topics I want to talk about so he has time to think about it. Here's the thing. Like Tucker Carlson, right? Andrew Tate, the British guy there, Russell Brand, go down the list. Like these people are all on platforms. They all are Joe Rogan. They're all making a lot of money, and they all talk about controversial topics. But we have Julian Assange rotting away in a prison. We have Gonzalo Lira, who was picked up and murdered. We have Ross Ulbricht, who was taken away for creating the Silk Road. And I'm sure there's other people where they're in jail or, a friend of mine, I don't know if I've ever said this. When I was in Germany last year and the whole Ukraine thing was going on, my buddy's sister, his boyfriend, I know it's a little confusing, but his sister's boyfriend flew a Russian flag in Germany. This is in Germany. And they came and they took him away. He's been in prison for 15 months in Germany for flying a Russian flag. Yep. And I told them, I mean, who the hell am I? But I wrote to the family members that I had met, and I said, what are you guys doing, man? You should be getting, because Germany is kind of strange where you can't own land. You can own land, but you can't like build a house outside a city zone. People think Germany's free. Wrong. Occupied territory. So they, so this little village, there's a few thousand people where this guy was taken from. I said, that whole village should be camping down on this, wherever they have this guy. Same thing with Julian Assange. I wish somebody would have organized some event where we just have a Woodstock event and nobody goes home until they let him out. And even if it doesn't end, well, at least we tried. At least we tried. Yeah. But the question is, are those people just not are they untouchable? Like if somebody gets bumped off, like Trump gets killed, Tucker Carlson gets killed, Andrew Tate gets killed, who knows? I mean, is there going to be an uproar? I mean, are they controlled opposition? Anything's possible. And that's the one thing that I've learned is we can speculate and we can try to make our best guesstimate, but we could be wrong. And that's why we don't want to go all in on any bets. So we're just serfs. Well, I said in the other video a couple days ago, all we are is serfs then. And that guess what? When AI and robots and technology gets to the point where, think about it, I mean, technology right now can replace probably more than half the world's population. Because in the United States, I can't speak about Australia, big fella, but in the United States, easily 1/2 of the population isn't needed. I mean, technically, I'm not even needed anymore. I'm retired. I mean, I don't have my business anymore, so I'm not as productive as I used to be. And like older people, technically, they're not needed anymore, right? So you could get rid of half the world's population, replace it with, and out of the people who are productive, because they don't think about it, the people who are in charge of everything. I had this debate with Dan. He's like, well, they need to make money. They're always looking for profits. But think about it. If you have robots running everything and a skeleton crew of humans who take care of the robots or whatever else you need them to do, it's not about money at that point. You're getting anything you want still. And you won't have the masses there who take up your resources, or you don't have to like live behind gated communities then. I don't know. I'm 50 something years old now, and I can tell you the people in the United States today. I mean, the United States has always had a rough element. But now, I mean, anything goes in the United States today. There's no standards or etiquette of any kind. I mean, it's crazy land. I call it a ghetto culture. The United States is a ghetto culture now. Those Apple goggles, yeah, it's ridiculous. Who's going to put that on? I mean, I'll put something like that on if I'm going scuba diving. That's when I put something like that on. But hey, who's to say? We could be in virtual reality right now, right? Isn't that what The Matrix basically proposed? The movie? Yeah, well, I mean, think about it, big fella. I mean, how many people cry for the sheep and the cows going to slaughter? Or how many people cry for the ant they stepped on? Do they even try to step out of the way? Yeah, TV. Yeah, if you have a TV, it should be gone. Should be gone. TV is completely. I'll never forget. I remember when I bought my house, I got Dish TV, and I had it for a year. And I remember I was out cutting the grass, and I let the TV run, and I came in, and I think I had a music channel on, and I was like, why do I even have this freaking thing? Because the only reason I like the Dish TV is because the internet. The back when I had a house and that Dish TV, the internet was not developed like it is now. So now, if I want to watch a YouTube video on something, yeah, you need the internet. But to have a TV, like and just watch those channels only, you're locked in. I don't see the point. Yeah, I think when the boomers go, I don't think you'll need TVs at that point. I mean, my father would still watch like the nightly news. I'd be like, Dad, don't watch this. And he'd get, that's the other thing. When people get older, they go, oh, and he'd get all upset. I'd be, Dad, don't watch this, man. Why are you watching this? How's it going to help your life? You're like 90 years old. Oh. You watch YouTube on your TV? Well, that's a different story. That's like a computer monitor at that point. You got to have a computer monitor. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, Zodi. I was going to get one of those projections and take it with me, and then I could have a computer and then just project it on a wall, which is kind of cool. But I didn't want to lug around a projector. Yeah, everything. And that's another experience, man. When you lose everything you own, um, man, I'll tell you, it took me about 6 months to get rid of everything I owned, and wow. It's when you're going through it, when you're doing it, it's like any task. You're in it, you're doing it day after day. Okay, you got this sold. Okay, I'm going to scrap this. Okay, I'm going to trash this. Okay, I'm going to give this away. And you're finally getting it down. You're getting it down, and the pile is going lower and lower. And then when it's all over, it's like, whew, and it's just like deflation and a little bit of depression. Because I'll tell you, in my travels of China and around the world, I had accumulated all this stuff that I loved, and I had space for it with all the different properties. And boy, that was so hard. So hard. And now, if it doesn't fit in my backpack, I can't take it. Literally, I own only what I can carry on in my two backpacks. That's it. And that's another extreme. I went from one extreme to another, and there's pros and cons to both. I was talking to my sister about this. Once you go through it, it's kind of like when you break up with somebody. You miss them for a little while, and then you get used to that loss, right, or that void. And it's the same thing with the. You need the goggles, yeah. Oh man, we are farmed animals, yeah. I forget the name of the book there, Animal Farm, yeah. Well, the rest of my life plan, well, how long do I have? Do you know that answer? Um, you know, uh, long story short, uh, send money where? For what? The I forget what I was saying. You leave. Oh, you leave what opened? How long you're going to live, or your life plan? I mean, truly, you just answered. I think I was just talking about this, but back when I was running my businesses, I was literally living like days, weeks, months in advance. Like everything was organized, scheduled. And I mean, to be successful, yeah, today was important, but I mean, everything had to be mapped out. And now, when my mother got sick and then she died, boy, that was like a cruise missile that hit the Lusitania, man, and or not the HMS. Oh boy, what's the name of that ship that just one shot? HMS. Oh my God, World War II. But anyways, complete devastation, and I've learned over the years, and it's still a struggle, because when I do get a little anxious now is when I look too far ahead and I can't see where I'm supposed to be going or doing. I truly try to focus on right now, right here. Like right now, this is my focus. And today was my focus. And I'm not saying I don't think about the future. I do in certain occasions, but I don't harp on it. I truly try to put, so whether I'm around another year or another 30 years, I think I'll just take one day at a time, DJ. So it's the only thing I can control. It's the only thing I think we're guaranteed. So, oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's, hey, thanks, Nodi. Appreciate it. Yeah. I can get a cup of coffee down here. Actually, well, I make my own coffee. I buy a jar of Nescafe. They'll buy the jar. Thank you. Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you. You think you're doing well, and then a day will come along and really make you question what in the hell you're doing. Because the one thing, listen, I love the United States. It's my country, right? It's where I was born and raised, and that's why I love it, because it's where my ancestors. But I also realize that at this point in time, there's nothing I can do to enact change. And I think I've said in past videos, if I think at some point, if I'm called back to the United States to fight for the country or in some way, or when I say fight, I'm talking could be figurative or literal, then that's what I'll do. Yeah, if I live 40 more years, then the one thing that I learned by watching my parents, growing old sucks. Truly. It truly is the unknown. You could do everything right. And still end up on the short end of the stick. And sometimes all of us are going to have to accept whatever comes our way. I was saying earlier that in my YouTube feed, I was getting these videos of these people who were dying. And I don't watch those kind of videos, so I don't know why they were showing. I was getting plane crash videos and then people dying showing up in my feed. And I was like, this is very unusual. And I hope it's not the universe sending me. But hey, these poor bastards who got cancer and they were dead in a year. I mean, man, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want that cross, God. But we all got something's going to get us all. Yeah, I haven't eaten a typical American diet. In fact, I think yeah, my diet could be better, I'm sure. And so I try to eat a lot of vegetables, but I go through periods where I'm very disciplined, and then I go through periods where I'm not focused on it. And I found as I get older, oh yeah, Father Time, yeah. Although I am fascinated with like the Highland type shows, where that would be the one advantage of being immortal is imagine, I won't say easy, but imagine how, I guess I will say easy, how easy life would be from a standpoint. I mean, how many lifetimes would you have to live before you really understood everything? 2, 3, 4? Like where you go live in, I mean, think about how cool that would be. You'd go spend a lifetime in China, learn all about China, Chinese, become proficient, spend 80, 100 years there, and then you rotate to another country and then another continent. I mean, that would be kind of awesome, actually. That's something that's one reason why I travel. And it's one reason why I've lived in China and lived in Mexico. I've always tried to live in a way. I've always stayed away from where like foreigners are. I've tried to go where I have to immerse myself and understand the culture. Well, I don't have to, but obviously, if you're going to be living around Mexicans, you don't want to be living like Gringo Dave. So you're going to be Gringo Dave, but you don't have to live like him. So, oh, you've been getting it too? Wow. DJ, what would you say is the typical American diet? What, McDonald's? I mean, I don't. I just that's something else I saw in the feed on I think in my Twitter feed. There's this guy who's saying he can't afford to go to McDonald's anymore, and I was like, what? And so I clicked on it, and he had a picture where his Happy Meal or whatever, some sort of meal, was like $16 and change for whatever meal he got. And yeah, well, why not? Chipotle, I mean, I don't go to Chipotle, obviously. I mean, I'm in Mexico. I don't need Chipotle, but $20 taco bowls or more. Yeah. By the way, McDonald's tomorrow morning before opening bell, they report earnings. Should be interesting. And I noticed all the restaurant stocks, they started popping last week. Yeah, McDonald's. I was telling the family I stay with here the story about, you remember the guy, there was a story about this guy who took a McDonald's meal and he was doing the way I remember it, he did construction and he forgot about this hamburger and french fries he had, and he found it like a year later, and it looked like it just came out of the box with some dust on it. So that stuff, it's not, like you said, it's not even real food. Now, I've read online, and I don't know if it's true, supposedly the hamburgers in McDonald's are like a high percentage of filler, and the filler is like a sawdust material. So they mix that with the meat. So that's how they reduce their meat content. So when they say 99% meat or whatever they say, is it really? Or is it just the meat portion's 99% meat? I don't trust any of them. And I haven't eaten. When I used to go to McDonald's is when they had the dollar coffee, because it's the right price for me, dollar coffee, if I'm out and about. I'm not going to Starbucks and spending $5. And in the mornings I would get their rolled up quesadilla, the egg and sausage burrito, not quesadilla. That was pretty good. And occasionally I'd have a cheeseburger, and I'd take the bread away, because the bread is where all the calories are in a hamburger in McDonald's, because their patties are like this big. It's like the size of like a silver dollar. Yeah, food's a rabbit hole. And I'll never forget when I started my business, I was like in very good shape. Like I would always go to the gym. I mean, I had a great routine. I was strong. And then I started working. When I did my own thing, I started working at least 100 hours a week. Every day, I work like 15 hours a day in the week, and then the only day I took half day off was Sunday. And I'll never forget, like I would be working. I'd be in there at 4 or 5 in the morning. I'd be working, and I'd get hungry. And I get a little irritable when I get hungry. So I'd go over to my desk, and I'd pour a bowl of Raisin Bran. Raisin Bran was my cereal of choice. And I'd put milk in it. I'd put half milk, half water. And I'd eat as fast as I could. I'd throw it in the microwave, heat it up. And then I'd eat it as fast as I could, drink some fluids, and back to work. And one of the things I've learned for myself over time is when I get focused on anything, and I mean, like I tend to like, I'm a maniac when I get focused on something. And I remember I gained, I don't know how much I gained. I probably gained 40 pounds back then over the course of a year. I didn't even know I was gaining weight. I'm sure I must have known I needed new pants. That's another thing I'll never do again. I mean, if I gain weight, I'm never buying new clothes. I'll starve myself first. But yeah. And looking in a mirror, I don't know about you guys, but when I look in a mirror, I see the same face. Even when I look back at pictures and I'm like, oh yeah, this fat Dave. Oh yeah, this skinny Dave. But when I was looking in the mirror while I'm shaving or whatever, I don't see fat Dave or skinny Dave. I just see the same person. Like right now, yeah, I don't know. I look kind of fat, but I know I'm not as fat as I was a year ago when I came to Mexico. That's all I can tell you. I had a couple business, but primary business was I was in manufacturing. I would design and manufacture power supplies and whole bunch of different products. So I would design it, and I like this because where you make the money is through customization. Because if I'm like when China came, I was able to stay alive even after the Chinese inundated the market and put everybody else out of business. Because what I would do is people knew, hey, I need this. Hey, call Dave. Hey, I don't know how to do this. Call Dave. So I'd have people send me all these plans and drawings, and they had no idea what they were doing, and I would design a solution for them. And when you design a custom solution, you get a premium price. So I've never, ever intentionally tried to compete on price. It's how you lose. I can talk about that for hours. So you never, ever want to compete on price. There's only one person who wins. Everybody else loses. So unless you're the Chinese market, and even the Chinese are losing that now, Yeah. Other countries are eating their lunch now. Yeah, but what happened, DJ, is when I started, I helped start up businesses for other people, and and this one company, I made this company easily $100 million, literally, maybe more. And those fucks, uh, I got nothing, and because I was naive, I was 20 something when I helped start that company, or they started it, but I got it off the ground, and my attitude always back then was, hey man, I'll prove it, I'll show you, but I was always like a handshake type person. Idiot, idiot, get everything in writing and get it up front. Now I mean, obviously I'm much more experienced, and not saying I'm not an idiot, but on certain things I'm not anymore because I got punched in the face. But anyway, so it got to the point where, it's almost like a comedy routine. So I was working 80 to 100 hours for these idiots. And I did it because I was proving I could do it. I did, but the thing is, I did it for myself to prove I could do it, because what I did was that gave me the confidence to go out and do my own thing because I had already done it. So I don't regret it. But I reached a point where I was negotiating with these people, and they were so disrespectful. Like I had done nothing when I did everything, if we're honest about it. I mean, I know my shortcomings. And I didn't give any ultimatums. No. I just said to them, I said, hey, guys, you're in the position of authority. You're in the power seat. I can only tell you what I'm looking for, what I think is fair. And if you don't agree with me, then that's the answer you give me. Then I will have to decide if that's acceptable or not. And so I talked to my parents about it and other people and thought long and hard about it. And I decided that I was okay with what I'd done so far, but there was zero chance I was going to continue with that financial package doing what I was doing. So what I did was I said, okay, touche. So I actually cut back my hours to 50 hours a week. I didn't go in on the weekends anymore, and I worked 10 hours Monday through Friday. And after like a month of that, the owner of the company came in and said, what's the problem here? I said, what do you mean? He goes, you're going home kind of early. You're not coming in early. I said, hey, man, I'm working 10 hours a day, and I don't even take a lunch. I'm working 10 hours straight. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm getting everything done. He goes, yeah, but you're not doing this. You're not doing this. I said, yeah, that's because I was doing the job of 5 guys. Now I'm doing the job of 1 guy. The job I actually was hired to do, I'm doing that. And I'm doing a little bit more, but I'm not doing all this stuff anymore. I told you that. And that led to one thing to another. And, here's the thing. There's a regret because I wish I probably could have done something, but in reality, I didn't have the position of power. So it wasn't for me to say yes. And I'm not sure there's anything I could have done, but I wish there was, because I would have made a lot more money and it would have been a lot less work, because it would have basically it was going to develop into a company where that developed eventually into a company that, became a mature company, and people fill roles. It would have would have been a very good, lucrative gig. And going out and starting your own business, you better, before you pull that trigger, you better understand what you're doing. And that's something I did, because I've done it. And I said to myself, so why did I work I said to myself, I can't guarantee I'm not going to fail. I can't guarantee I'm going to succeed, but I can guarantee that I won't fail due to lack of effort. And that is why I worked those hours. I was a machine. I was a machine. Truly, I talked to my older sister about this. And, she's a doctor, and she was a machine. I mean, she's still a machine. She's incredible. And we both kind of like chuckle, like, I don't think I could go back and do that today. And I don't want to do that today. And when my mother got sick and died, that's when everything changed. That was a wake-up call, because I now had to face issues that I didn't have to face before. So that's how you change, man. Yeah, it's and the other thing that I've struggled with, I'm not going to get into the last two, because other than people who I love dying, the last 2 years were the most difficult years after that I've had to deal with. And I wasn't sure I was going to, I'm still not sure I'm going to come through it. But, in the United States, I think for men, because I'm not a woman, so I can't speak for a woman, but I think that for me, I'll just speak for me, you can speak for you. I guess whether I like it or not, my self-worth was definitely tied to maybe my net worth, or how much money I'm making and how successful I am, how productive I am. Productivity, really, I never really gave a shit about money, as long as I had enough money. Like, I've always had enough money to do whatever I wanted, so I never really worried about money. So I never really tried to be like, hey, I need $1 billion, right? I couldn't give a shit. I mean, I don't think that would really change my life much, really. I don't think I'd really go off the reservation. Maybe if I was 22, I would. But, and so as I've slowed down, I've struggled with that, because one of the things I've really struggled with is I haven't been writing my second book. And I'm really beating myself up over that, because I know I should be doing it. I just don't want to do it. So I haven't. Losing family, in some ways, I want to believe in what the Bible says. I want to believe that they're saved and that I'll see them again and they're in a better place. But in the end of the day, until we go there, we just don't know. So the thought of losing somebody and never seeing them again when they were such an integral part of my life, it's very sad. Very sad. It hurts. Especially when I was growing up, my parents said to me, I was a child and I didn't understand it when they told me. They said, when you get older, Dave, you'll be able to count the number of close friends, people you can rely on, no matter what, on one hand. And I was like, really? Well, I've got 3 siblings, so I've got them. My parents did a good job that way, I think. And then I do have some friends where if the shit hit the fan, I know, at least for a little while. See, the problem is, like, I've had friends who, like, were going through divorces, or had financial issues, and I had them come stay with me. And after like a few months, you're like, hey man, when you leaving? So yeah, let me check. Sorry, I haven't been checking the. You know the guy that invented the UV pressure ink. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, well, you know, um, he should have gone to a lawyer before he started developing anything, and then he would have known what steps. And that's unfortunately sometimes that's learning the hard way, right? Your first mechanical watch. Wow, that's like in China. China watches are. It's like the Chinese will spend outrageous amounts of money on a watch. On a watch. I don't wear a watch anymore. I did for many years, but I always considered it because my first my first time in China. I'm walking down the street, and China's like the wild, wild. I mean, anything goes. Same thing in Mexico. You can get anything you want on the street, and I mean anything. And these guys were selling fake Rolexes. So now my brother is suave, sophisticated. I'm the exact opposite. I'm rough and ready. So I never had a desire for a Rolex, but I always, like in my past life, I mean, I always dressed nice and had real nice clothes and accessories. So, but I never really cared about a watch. But my brother had this beautiful Rolex. So I was like, do you have any Rolex? So I said to this Chinese guy, he's like, hey, you have any Rolexes? And he pulled out and he had this gold Rolex, gorgeous. And it was like $2. And I knew it was going to work for like a day, but I didn't care. It's just going to be something that you wear as a decoration on your wrist. And that's all I wore it as, decoration. And yeah, that's the other thing. Boy, when I was getting rid of everything, fortunately, one of my nephews, he dresses pretty nice, so he's been on my channel. I remember he tried on my coat. It looked like a 2-year-old putting on his father's coat. And I said to him, don't worry, go to a tailor. They don't make suits like this anymore. This thing will last you the rest of your life. And fortunately, he did. He took like 2 or 3 of my suits. And I also had the collection. I probably had 1,000 ties over the years. You get the ties. And I had all my father's ties. And my father grew up in the 60s, like his career was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So he had a lot of these fat ties. So I would be wearing fat ties when it wasn't even in vogue. People would be like, and there'd be these ugly 1970s fat ties, and they actually came back into fashion. Some of those are pretty expensive now. So he actually took like half my ties, and I had some, just again, it's a physical thing, but they were gorgeous. Yeah, that's something I was thinking about the other day. Is I do miss dress. Like, this is how I dress now. I dress in clothes that dry quick, or I wash in a sink and they dry in hours. Those are my clothes, like polyester clothes, and they're terrible, but they wear well and they hold up. And when you're living out of a bag, you can, it's kind of like necessity. It's not. I'm not worried about looking nice anymore. It's really about function. I do, but you know what I mean. Yeah, that's interesting, Zodi. Mechanical watch. If I find that Rolex, I'll ship it down to you. I think I might have kept that. I don't know. I did keep one. I have an old sea trunk from the military, and I have that small little trunk. And my other sister, she let me put the trunk in her. So I got one trunk of whatever I wanted to keep. So like only the most valuable things that are, or like memories, I fit in the trunk and put it there. And I might have saved that. If I did, I'll think of you. And but I'm not sure when I'm going to be back in the U.S. So let me go through the comments. Sorry. Yeah. So hey, if you're in the markets though this week, we'll see. This is the next week or two. We are going to get a lot of information in this next week or two, and it could be one or two things is going to happen. Either we're going to get a Weimar melt up, and things are just going to continue going, and that's bad because Weimar didn't end well. Or we're going to start getting some corrections. And we could start leading into those corrections could lead to where news starts to come out about these banks. And everybody, you should have some cash at home, man. Have some cash at home. Because if credit cards stop working, you should have some supplies at home. I know it sounds crazy, but you should have at least, if you want to be conservative, add up how many people are in your house or friends or family, whoever comes over, get 3 months worth of food. Even if it's not the best food, canned goods, 50-pound bag of rice, right? Rice, pasta lasts for 3 months easy. The other thing that I had when I had all this stuff, I would have like 10 or 20 pounds of protein powder. That stuff lasts forever. And all you need is water and a blender. That's the other thing I stored is when I would buy bottled water, I'd keep the bottle and I'd fill it up with tap water as a backup, just as an emergency backup. So I would, when I'd use a gallon or use a 5-gallon, I'd fill up 5-gallon. You just need the storage space for it, and I had the storage. And that was just, you just never know. You never know. So you just, if it gets to the point where something goes down and you don't want to leave your house for a week, like if you don't have things in your house and you're forced to go out and put yourself at risk, I know it sounds crazy. It sounds insane, but this stuff could go down, man. This stuff, our country is really is put itself in bad position. And it's so leveraged. It could be a house of cards. Really, it could happen. Yeah, you couldn't lose selling everything. Yeah, neither could I. And here's the kicker. I had the space. I had my factory was my house, and then I had like 30,000 square feet. And so you're like, oh, I've got this shelving unit, I've got this storage space. And then you never, like I would always have the attitude, like I'd be like, hey, you never know when you might need that. Okay, I'll get that. So I had accumulated so much shit. And it wasn't shit, but it was just stuff that you never know when you might need. But then when you actually have to go, it was so hard to get rid of that. I don't even want to think about it. It was very difficult. Oh yeah, living out of a bag, man. I've been doing it. I've been traveling for, on average, 6 months a year for 15 years. So I've been living out of a bag. But see, I had a great setup. I had a business and a house, and I'd come back to New Hampshire, and I'd stay there for 3 months at a time. And I'd pick up and I'd go. And then I'd always have a home base to come back to. And it was a great routine. And I had, I had everything, like I had everything, like everything I'm talking about, I had it all. I took all these steps. Everything I would ever need, I had. And that was the hardest part, because now I'm back to zero. Like, where if I ever want to try to build this back up, it gets a little overwhelming. But I think I might have said this. I got a very clear message from God, the universe, clear as if somebody was talking to me, and it said, "You," in essence, it said, "You need to get down. You need to create an oasis so your family and friends have someplace to run to." And then in 2021, my dad started deteriorating, and I had to return from Mexico after I was here. I wasn't planning on coming back, but I had to come back because I had to take over his care. It's too involved to get into. But and then I found out a whole other chain of events happened where everything just fell apart. When they say it rains, it pours, it truly did. And, when I was praying to God, I told God, I said, "Listen, God, I'm not Job, man. I'm not Job." I almost felt as though the devil went to God and said, "Hey, this guy, of course this guy's going to love you. Look at his life. He's got everything he needs. Everything's easy. Let me put him through the ringer." Like, that's what the devil said to Jesus. And Jesus is like, "Yeah, you can test Job. He won't buckle." And I said to the guy, I said, "Hey, man, I'm not Job, man. Please don't test me like that." And when things started coming unglued, like everything out of my control, where instead of being proactive, I was reacting. It was terrible. And then you have to make tough decisions. And that's when I decided, just basically, I knew I couldn't stop what was happening, and I tried to ride it out. And I definitely, man, I'll tell you, very, very difficult 2 years. Yep. But hey, listen, I don't think I've talked to you before, DJ. It was nice talking to you. And Trish, Brian, Tom, and the other Tom, Charlie. Big fella, of course. And am I forgetting anybody? Boy, I hope not. I'm sorry if I am. Well, I think I mentioned everybody. It's always nice talking to folks. And listen, let me just end by saying, Jim Willie, anytime these things happen, there's a 25% chance that the person you're booking will cancel. So that's the caveat. Won't cancel because of me, I don't think, unless I lose my Wi-Fi here. But unless Jim cancels, we're going to plan on, we haven't firmed up the time, but I'm thinking around 10 a.m. Eastern time, this Saturday morning on the 10th. That's Eastern time, roughly 10 a.m. I'll put a video out later in the week. So if you want to come on and ask him a question, you need to sit, because this is not going to be on YouTube, or it's going to be a private session. The only way you're going to know about it is if I send you an invitation by email. So if you want to join, then you have to send me an email. Now, let me put my email. It's david.is.dawei@gmail.com. You don't have to use periods, but I do. Google, Gmail, they don't recognize them, so if you use them, it doesn't matter. So you send me an email there. Remind me, because I get so many emails. Say, hey, I want to ask Jim Willie this question, and then I'm going to try to schedule people in, because I don't know how many seats there are. I don't know if I'm going to use Zoom. I'd prefer to use StreamYard, and I think StreamYard only allows 6 people. So if I use StreamYard, I'm going to schedule people in where you come in, ask a question, and then you step out, let somebody else come in. So if you want to do that, if you want to just watch the video, then send me an email and tell me that. And then I won't have to worry about trying to fit you into a schedule. So I just haven't thought about how I'm going to handle it yet. But whatever your intentions are, just send it to me that way. And So that's it. So we'll see. I said this earlier. I'm working on the last year. I actually have. I told some crazy stories at the beginning about how ignorant I was with my trading, because I've only been trading since the end of 2019. So definitely not professional. But over the last year, invested in certain things, but also been working very hard at improving my skills, and also putting myself in positions where I had to react. And so I kind of developed a trading system that I don't see a lot of people doing this. And I've had very, very good success with it in the short run. I think I'm either 6 for 6 or 8 for 8. So it's in the, now that I'm trading money on it instead of just paper trading it, now I'm tracking it. And if it's something that's successful, maybe I'll do an interview on it, or a video on it. I'm trying to make it low risk and high reward. And so when you lose, because when you trade, you're going to lose. So when you lose, you want to lose as little as possible. And when you win, you want to make as much as possible. So that's what I've been tweaking that. And so far, so good. Not perfect. Well, the trading's been perfect, but I'm learning as I go. So we'll see. Everybody have a great night. It's another beautiful night here, except for the mosquitoes. And if anybody has any interest on going to Mexico, definitely, I can definitely give my 2 cents on that. I trade on Schwab and Fidelity. Those are the 2 that I use. I was gonna TD Trade, or I forget who it was. They just merged. Schwab just bought them. I'm not sure. There's Robinhood, where I tried to join Robinhood a year ago or 2 years ago, and whatever it was, I don't remember now. I didn't like it. And there's certain aspects of Schwab I like very much, and others I hate. And certain things about Fidelity I don't like, but certain things I do. The thing with Fidelity does not let you make same-day trades. So when I want to do like a 0 DTE option, which means I'm trading something that's expiring today, I can't do that on Fidelity. I have to do that on Schwab. So if I'm going out swing trading, then I do that typically on Fidelity. And if I'm doing the short-term 0 DTE, then I try to do it on Schwab. And, that's Dan. It's too bad Dan didn't come on. Dan is an excellent, excellent day trader. That guy is he's very, very fast. Whereas me, I'm like the plotter. Like I'll get a chart and I'll be analyzing the chart. I'll be plotting my trend lines, calculating numbers, and the trade's going, right? And I'll be like, oh, I need to do this. And it's already gone. Yeah. Oh, the cash settlement. Oh yeah, that bullshit. long there was um, there was I've made many mistakes. I was I have to remind myself to slow down, because I remember I was moving so fast to get this trade in that I didn't normally I have the discipline to stop there, go through the lines. Yes, confirmed. Yes, that's what I want. This particular time, I was trying to get it in before the end of the day, or what, I forget what was happening, but I had to get it in. And I said, okay, that's right. And Schwab, I hate they automatically changed this. It's like the settings came up, and I clicked a button, and when you change the strike, it goes back to their automatic settings, and I didn't notice it. So I put in this order, and I had put in what I thought was like a put, and it put it in as a call because the calls were defaults. And all of a sudden, at the end of the day, I see exercised for $800,000, exercised for $700,000, and I'm like, oh. And the only thing I'll say, it was a butterfly. So anybody who knows anything about options, because it was a butterfly and all three legs are exercised, I only lost the premium. But sometimes I do broken legs. And if I had done a broken leg, I would have been out like $10,000, $20,000. And I'm sitting there like I was it's like in the cartoons or in the Three Stooges, they give somebody a paper bag and they're like, just breathe in that. I almost had to get a paper bag, man, because I was like, you freaking idiot. I mean, slow the hell down and do, yeah, you know, so I've actually made fat finger mistakes, and I really try to remind myself before I hit that entry button to go through and check each line item, because almost every trade I make, it's a multi-line contract. One thing that I learned in my trading, the people who make money on Wall Street, they're trading both sides of the trade. They're trading both sides of the trade. And what they do is they make adjustments. And that's what I've learned how to do. So you learn how to, basically you're going to lose a little bit on one and you're going to make more on the other. And that's really the way to go. But there's pros and cons to it, and you really have to be paying attention. And you can't make those stupid mistakes like that I made. Thank God, thank you, Lord, that it was just I think I lost like $22. So if that's the worst I'm going to lose on a stupid mistake, I'll take that. So, if anybody has trading, listen, I'm not saying I'm God's gift to trading, but I'll tell you, I look back now. This is why I joke with Dan now. I'm like, what am I ignorant about now that's going to punch me in the face? Because I didn't know a year ago, and then a year before that, I was doing things that I was so ignorant about. I didn't even know I was ignorant. You know what I mean? You know, it's not stupidity, it's ignorance. You don't know. It's like, I know it's about certain people with, what's going on in our country, and certain, they're so damn sure that they know what's going on. And they're just, now I could be the one who's ignorant, right? That's something I've learned. I could definitely, so that's why I'm always open to suggestions, and if evidence proves or time shows that I'm wrong, then mea culpa, man. Greg Silver Liberties or Greg Manarino, DJ? I think you mean Silver Liberties. Yeah, I've messaged him. We go back and forth. Yeah, Silver. Greg and Tim, man, they're fantastic. That's why I joined their Patreon. I wanted them to. They are number one. They're great people, really good people, and I will support good people. And Greg, as far as a chartist and a trader and guy who thinks outside the box, phenomenal. Greg, thank you very much, man. I learned so much from him, and he helped me to, really start becoming really pretty good at reading charts. And I'm supposed to be talking to Greg sometime soon. I'm waiting for him to confirm. And but here's the thing. I'm not sure it's going to be a public video. So I'll talk to him about that. And maybe I'll do what I'm going to do with Jim Willie and say, hey, maybe Greg, maybe what we do is we'll let your former Patreon guys and anybody who's really into you, we'll let them come on and do a private video. Because that's the thing. I mean, doing public videos today, I mean, what's the point? As Greg is Silver Liberties, he told me, he goes, Dave, he goes, the reason we ended it is we said everything we need to say. So what's the point? Because it's a lot of work. So, yeah. Even me. I mean, that's why I like these live streams. I don't have to edit it. I just hit a button. Okay. All right. We're coming up on 3 hours. Oh, my God. It's 10 o'clock here. Holy shit. Wow. Hey, guys, thank you. Everybody. Thank you very much. DJ, where are you from? What state? I assume you're from the United States, maybe Canada. I don't. Maybe you're from Australia too, like Big Fella. If you're still on the line. That's all right. If I chat you. New Jersey. Oh my God, New Jersey. Wow. New Jersey's a beautiful state, but you want to talk about, wow, that's going to be ground zero for so much stuff. I mean, you're seeing the changes. I mean, they must be losing their population hand over fist at this point. Wow. I'm surprised you're not in North Carolina with Zodi or down with Dan in Florida. Zodi, good talking to you, buddy. Yeah. Yeah, even one of my favorite guys to watch on YouTube is he's in New Jersey. Oh, my God. An Italian guy. He's fantastic. Yeah, I get it. Oh. He has an investment firm. He's on the investment channel. He's phenomenal. I can see his face, and his name will come to me, but probably not today. But he's in New Jersey, and he actually, I think he just moved to Florida. But he was in New Jersey for the longest time. And actually, one last story, and then I'll go. I had a sales guy who called on me for years, and he was in New Jersey. He'd drive up to New Hampshire to call on me. And I'd be talking to him about New Hampshire. He was in like just an average home in the middle of New Jersey, and he sold this thing. It was a split-level ranch. Sold it for like $800,000 a few years ago. He came up to New Hampshire. He bought a whole farm for that. He used the money he bought for the sale of the house. He got a whole farm, horse farm. Yeah. He's like, I had to move to New Hampshire, Dave. You keep talking about it. I'm like, okay, well, good luck. So, yeah. Yeah, I'll be talking to Jim Willie about that, about property, because I don't know, man. We'll get into that next time about property. Yeah. Definitely look forward to talking to you about New Jersey. And any topic. I love talking about almost anything. Although not pop culture, like Taylor Swift, that type of thing. I can't help you. I told my stories about Taylor Swift already. Pinto, good man, Brian. Michael Pinto. He's like, say, I look at Michael Pinto like I look at Greg at Silver Liberties. Just rock solid dudes, man. And they know their stuff. I would, out of all the people online, I think Michael Pinto is the guy who if I was going to put money into something on an idea, I would trust him. There's a few other people online who are very good, but I don't know them. Like I haven't followed them as long. Michael Pinto, definitely. He's pretty conservative. So everybody have a great night. And I will definitely post again this week with the time for Jim Willie. But again, send me an email, etc., etc. That's it. And any and all comments, any ideas or suggestions, whatever. Peace.